What if I told you there is a root that refuses to die? You can dig it up. You can plow it under. You can abandon the field for a decade. It does not care. It keeps growing. For over 2,000 years, families in East Asia relied on this single plant as insurance against everything that could go wrong. Drought, frost, famine, neglect. The root survived them all. Then modern agriculture arrived and called it a weed. But the plant never stopped producing. It simply stopped being noticed. This is the forgotten root that never needed us. Most food crops exist only because we constantly rebuild them. Seeds are collected, dried, stored, and planted on schedule. Fields are cleared, tilled, watered, protected. Miss one season, and most crops vanish completely. Chinese yam does not. Along its climbing vines, small bulbils form throughout the growing season. These aerial tubers develop in the leaf joints where stem meets stalk. Each one is a complete reproductive unit. When autumn arrives and the vine dies back, the bulbils drop to the ground. They do not wait for someone to plant them. They root on contact with soil. By the following spring, new vines emerge. This means Chinese yam continues. It does not restart each year. One planting becomes 2. 2 become 10. 10 become a permanent patch that expands outward, season after season, without a single seed being saved or a single row being planted. For families who understood this, the implication was profound. Food security was not something you planned annually. It was something you established once and inherited forever. But the bulbils were only half the system. Underground, something even more persistent was taking shape. Chinese yam has been cultivated in East Asia for more than 2,000 years. In China, it carries the name Shan Yao, which translates to mountain medicine. The name reveals how it was understood, not merely as food, but as something essential to health and survival. Long before agricultural textbooks existed, families in the mountainous regions of central China grew this root near their homes. It required no irrigation. It demanded no fertilizer. It did not need perfect soil or careful timing. Farmers planted it once and returned to harvest year after year, generation after generation. In Japan, the same species became nagaimo, prized for its unique texture when grated into a sticky paste served over rice. Korean cuisine incorporated it into porridges and stews. Across the region, this single root adapted to local traditions while maintaining its core identity, reliable food that returned without fail. The plant never appeared in historical records as a prestige crop. No emperors built monuments to it. It simply fed people, quietly, consistently, without interruption. And it did so because it had solved a problem that destroyed other crops every winter. Annual vegetables store their energy close to the surface. Carrots reach perhaps 12 inches deep. Potatoes sit within the top foot of soil. When hard frost arrives, these shallow reserves freeze, rot, or die. The plants must be replanted from nothing the following year. Chinese yam chose a different strategy. Its tuber grows downward, not outward. A single root can extend more than 1 meter into the earth, sometimes reaching 3 feet deep in loose soil. At that depth, temperature remains stable year-round. Frost cannot touch it. Summer heat cannot stress it. The tuber simply waits, insulated by the earth itself. This meant that even when surface crops failed completely, Chinese yam survived. Farmers could dig down in early spring, long before any other food was available, and extract a calorie-dense root that had been waiting all winter. The depth also protected it from drought. While shallow-rooted plants wilted during dry seasons, the Chinese yam tuber continued drawing moisture from deep soil layers. Evolution had engineered the perfect underground vault, and the plant was only getting started. Once established, Chinese yam behaved less like a crop and more like a force. It climbed fences. It crossed property lines. It spread into neighboring fields without invitation. The vines reached 15 feet or more, scrambling over anything in their path, while underground the roots pushed outward and downward simultaneously. For traditional gardeners, this was not a flaw. It was the entire point. A food source that expanded on its own, that required no annual labor, that produced more each year without additional inputs, was not a problem. It was the definition of food security. Families did not worry about saving enough seed for next season. The yam handled all of it automatically. Even aggressive harvesting could not eliminate it. Dig up the main tuber and fragments remained behind. Each fragment regenerated into a new plant. Try to remove every piece and the aerial bulbils had already dropped, rooting in new locations. In a world before refrigeration and global supply chains, this kind of persistence was priceless. Food that could not be accidentally lost was food you could depend on when everything else failed. But the very traits that made this priceless to families made it unacceptable to modern systems. Most plants invest their reproductive energy in one direction. Grains produce seeds. Potatoes produce tubers. Each species commits to a single strategy and lives or dies by its success. Chinese yam refused to choose. It developed both systems simultaneously. Below ground, the primary tuber stored massive reserves of starch and energy. This underground root could weigh several pounds and survive for years, regenerating new vines each spring, even if the previous season's growth was completely destroyed. Above ground, the bulbils provided geographic expansion. Each tiny air potato that fell from the vine created a new plant in a new location. Over time, this meant the yam did not just persist. It colonized new territory continuously. The redundancy was nearly foolproof. Remove the underground tuber, and the bulbils carried the genetics forward. Remove all the bulbils, and the tuber regenerated the entire plant. This dual strategy explains why Chinese yam could not be accidentally exterminated. You would have to eliminate every tuber fragment and every fallen bulbil simultaneously across an entire area. No traditional farming method could accomplish that. And neither could industrial machines. Modern farming equipment was designed for crops that behave predictably. Wheat stands at uniform height. Corn grows in straight rows. Potatoes sit in the top layer of soil where mechanical diggers can extract them efficiently. Chinese yam defied every expectation. Its tubers grew vertically, sometimes 3 feet deep, in soil that might be rocky or compacted. Mechanical harvesters could not reach them. Attempting to plow deep enough broke equipment and brought up only fragments, which sprouted into new plants the following year. The vines created additional problems. They climbed everything, tangling in machinery, wrapping around fences, escaping rows to invade adjacent fields. There was no way to contain them without constant manual intervention. For small-scale farmers working by hand, none of this mattered. The spreading vines meant more food for less effort. But industrial agriculture measured success by machine compatibility and standardized outputs. Chinese yam offered neither. So it was dismissed, not for failing to produce, but for refusing to cooperate. And then, the language changed. Somewhere between traditional gardens and modern agriculture, Chinese yam underwent a transformation in how it was described. A plant once valued for its unstoppable persistence became something to eradicate. The label arrived quietly. Agricultural agencies began classifying it as invasive in parts of North America, where it had naturalized after being introduced in the 1800s. The same characteristics that made it valuable now appeared on lists of problem species. What changed was not the plant. What changed was the system evaluating it.
Invasive is the word modern agriculture uses for organisms that succeed without permission, plants that spread beyond designated boundaries, species that do not require purchased inputs to thrive, crops that cannot be controlled by chemical or mechanical intervention. Chinese yam fit every definition. It grew where it was not planted. It returned after being removed. It fed anyone who knew how to harvest it. In a system built around control, this made it a threat. The biology remained exactly what it had always been. Only the interpretation shifted.
But beneath the new labels, families kept it for one reason. The families who cultivated Chinese yam for generations did not do so accidentally. The root delivered something essential that other foods could not easily replace. 100 grams of raw Chinese yam provides approximately 118 calories, primarily from complex carbohydrates that digest slowly and release energy over hours. It contains fiber that supports digestive health, along with potassium, manganese, and vitamin C. But the most distinctive quality is its mucilage. When sliced, Chinese yam releases a slippery, viscous substance that traditional medicine considered deeply therapeutic. In traditional Chinese medicine, shan yao was prescribed to support digestion and strengthen the lungs. Modern research has begun investigating its prebiotic properties. Unlike grains that require milling, Chinese yam can be eaten roasted, boiled, or sliced raw. It stores well in cool conditions without advanced preservation. A family with an established patch had access to fresh, nutrient-dense food throughout winter. This combination of easy storage, slow energy release, and minimal processing made it ideal for subsistence agriculture. Dependable and always available. And when modern systems turned away, the yam found other places to survive. Chinese yam never required human cultivation to persist. When farmers stopped growing it intentionally, the plant simply shifted locations. It escaped along forest edges. It established itself on abandoned farm plots. It thrived in hedgerows and margins where no one maintained control. In the eastern United States, naturalized populations now grow from New England to the Gulf Coast. The vines climb native trees. The bulbils drop and root in undisturbed leaf litter. The tubers push down into soil that has not been plowed in decades. These feral populations carry the same genetics as cultivated varieties grown in Asian gardens for 2,000 years. The nutrition is identical. The reproductive strategy is unchanged. The only difference is that no one tends them. But the plants do not notice. They do not require weeding, watering, or harvest schedules. They simply grow, producing food that almost no one recognizes or collects. This is the distinction between annual dependency and perennial memory. Annual crops disappear without human intervention. Perennial crops like Chinese yam continue whether anyone participates or not. The root does not care if we remember. It grows anyway. Today, the systems that rejected Chinese yam are showing strain. Industrial agriculture depends on stable climate, cheap fuel, and predictable seasons. All three are becoming unreliable. Fertilizer costs rise. Aquifers deplete. Weather patterns are shifting beyond recognition. In this context, Chinese yam looks different than it did a generation ago. Here is a crop requiring no annual replanting. It survives drought by storing water deep underground. It withstands frost that kills shallow vegetables. It spreads without purchased seed. It regenerates from fragments considered waste in any other system.
Permaculture practitioners have quietly grown Chinese yam for decades, valuing exactly the characteristics industrial agriculture despised. Researchers studying food security are beginning to revisit perennial roots. The plant has not changed. What is changing is our understanding of what resilience requires. Efficiency metrics built for stable conditions are failing. Crops dismissed for being uncontrollable suddenly look designed for exactly the chaos we now face. Chinese yam was never lost. It was waiting in plain sight, growing along the edges, ignored but never gone. The root that never dies is still here. It does not need permission to continue. It only needs us to remember what our ancestors already knew.